I wasted 10 years of my life trying to find purpose. I was absolutely miserable in that time. I've now found out a classic Muppetry mistakes you probably want to avoid. Also did a few things right, which got me there in the end. Okay, so more or less from age 17 to 27, I was completely lost. I was very, very unhappy. I thought seriously about the self-ending thing we can't mention on YouTube. And I was like, what's the point in it all? Why am I here? So in that time, I did a lot of running around looking for life purpose, and I made some classic mistakes. That gives me 5. The first one was avoiding the obvious. So I was good at teaching. My parents were teachers. My grandmother was a teacher. And I did a test at school when I was a teenager, and it said, you should be a teacher. And I was like, bugger off, I'm not going to be a teacher. Why? Number 1, attitude, just had attitude, right? Number 2, I couldn't see my way to do it, right? Like, I didn't want to be a school teacher. Now I'm a teacher, but on YouTube, and I do workshops, and I do it in my own way. Made loads more money than my dad ever did doing it. I missed the obvious because I couldn't see I had to do it my way. Okay, next big mistake I made is I got into drugs and alcohol, so I started numbing myself. So the problem with us men is when we don't have purpose, we're often just miserable. And I thought I'd numb myself out, so I got drunk pretty much every night. That arrested my emotional development and stopped me actually feeling that deep cool. And then you get in a vicious cycle with addiction where you numb yourself because your life's bad, but your life's bad because you're numbing yourself. So avoid that. I was pretty much drunk every night for 10 years. I'm lucky I survived that. You might want to give that one a miss. If you've got serious addictions, we're all prone to it, but if you've got serious addictions, you need to address those before you'll find purpose. I'd say within 6 months of getting sober, I actually found what I want to do in my life. Kind of related to this is just distraction. I mean, we live in the distraction age. The internet's fantastic at this. I mean, I was lucky. Computer games were rubbish back in my day. They're way more addictive now. Social media wasn't a thing. But I did lots of things to distract myself. Women was a big one. And the other one was just travel. Now, it does take a while to find purpose. You know, it doesn't have to be like 10 years, right? But a few years traveling around, meeting interesting people. If you're very young, that's fantastic. I'd say it's quite a good way to go, but that can become a distraction. Yeah, it's just like constantly going to new countries and you're always dealing with practical things rather than like really looking at the hard question. Another mistake I'd say is not really getting support with this. So it's like I'd always moan about it, but I never took seriously. I never like went to a coach or I know when I was young, my parents didn't have much money. They probably would have like helped me with a therapist if it was something to help me out. I didn't join any groups around it. I just sort of moaned about it. And there's a big difference between moaning about something and actually trying to get real serious help with it. If you're watching this channel, that's not you though. Good job. Now, the next thing I did wrong is I took what I love to, people always say, do what you love, do what you love. I took that advice way too literally. So I loved martial arts, particularly Aikido at first. And I thought, I'll travel around, just do loads of Aikido. But like that is it's very limited. Like very few people in the UK are professional Aikido teachers. There's no real career path in it. And I didn't think, oh, I could take what is it that I love about Aikido? And I realized it was the movement, what I now call embodiment. I built a whole career based on something that was kind of within Aikido or the part of Aikido I liked, rather than just sort of the literal do the exact thing you love. Last mistake I think relates to this is not linking it to business and earning a living. So one reason I was despairing, I was like, oh, I can't make money as an Aikido teacher. I love Aikido. But it was like, well, hang on a minute. There's people out there who are embodiment coaches. Eventually I went to study with them. And it wasn't until I saw that, hey, I could make a living from this, that I could really devote myself to getting really good at it, to spend a lot of time with it, to really dive into it. So I think big mistake was thinking that my purpose had to be something totally disconnected from money. Like money's the reality that makes it happen, that you can do the thing you love. Okay, but what did I do right? So I mean, it took me longer than a drunk guy trying to have a wank, right? But what did I do right? Well, there was this thing I loved and I kept doing it. And sometimes that wasn't easy. So I'd be have to drive a long way to do Aikido, or it's really inconvenient, but I love this thing and I could feel that I liked it more than other things, even underneath the numbing. I knew I was motivated and people said, oh, you really light up when you talk about this and you never miss a class. And I went with that. And that would be the sort of first thing I'd really recommend is go deeper into what you love. That's what I did. I devoted myself to it. I lived in Aikido dojos, I traveled the world with it, but also wider. So connected to Aikido, I found like work with trauma that became kind of trauma work that I did later. I started a trauma charity in Ukraine based on that. Wider leadership stuff. I got into corporate leadership work. So deepen, but also widen the thing you love. But don't give up on it. So don't take it literally. But I kept following that thing, which is I mean that was the main thing I did right. The next thing is I jumped on the opportunities where I saw it, right? So if someone said, hey, you can live in my Aikido dojo and just, paint the walls to, have to pay me money, or, just I did someone's garden or looked after someone's kids. And it was like, okay, there was always opportunities there. It wasn't like, well, I've got no money, so I can't do it. I was always looking creatively. And when I got a big break, was I was on a web server, and I was there was a project in Cyprus with the United Nations using Aikido in this really creative way around peace building and different things. I thought, wow, that looks really interesting. And I have a background in psychology as well as Aikido. So I jumped on it and I went and volunteered, and I basically made myself useful. And if you've got no money, you might have some skills, or in this case, I had some time. So the thing that really helped me was there was like older, smarter, richer guys running the project. And I said, I'll just be a dog's buddy. I'll make the tea, I'll run around, I'd book hotels, just run around the island, because they didn't have time for that. So I jumped on that opportunity. This kind of relates to sacrifice as well. So the thing that I did do is I realized purpose was really important. I was like, I need to find a way to live that is meaningful to me. And I sacrificed for that. So my friends were buying houses, my friends were getting married. And, what I was doing was living in people's basements and spare rooms, and, doing odd jobs and getting the mega bus, it's like the Flix bus, just to sort of, live cheaply. I was willing to be broke for a number of years. And I always say it to people, I say, if you're not willing to be broke for, I'd say 2 or 3 years, I have to take 10 like me, but 2 or 3 years of being broke to learn skills, to volunteer, to apprentice, you don't get to do what you love. Like that's the price of admission, 2 or 3 years doing something hard. So yeah, that prioritization and sacrifice, I did do well. In a way, it's what helped me with that. It's reluctant to say this, but it's important. I stared death in the eye. So I had people around me who died. I worked in war zones, and because I was unusually confronted with mortality, it's unusual in our culture. Um, I really realized that life was short, and that really lit a fire under me. That gave me a kind of motivation for that prioritizing and that sacrificing. So, maybe sit in a graveyard for a while, like remember death, memento mori, like that. I had sort of forced on me, so I can't really claim credit for it. Just some unfortunate things in my life, and then working in these areas of conflict, I was like, oh. So that was grace really for me. But as I said, you could deliberately do that. There are things like death meditations online. Okay, a couple more things I did right. When I found a viable option, I fucking jumped on it. I fully committed. I remember when I started my little company, I was like, okay, once I got sober, I'd waste all this time, but I was like, you know what? This is viable. I think I can earn a living from this. There is a leap of faith, this courage needed at that point. And I, had like, I think my granddad died, and I got like 3 grand, which is, enough money for a laptop, a cheap suit, and a couple of months rent or whatever it was at the time, food and rent. And I just jumped on it, and I just went, you know what, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to commit. And of course, it didn't take 3 months afterwards. It took 3 years. And, I had to go on benefits for a while. So I had to eat humble pie. That's another thing I did right. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go on housing benefits. I'll make a living from this. Again, sacrifice. But I really committed to it. I said, even if I have to be poor, this is what I'm going to do just all day long. And I grinded. I really, when I first started, I was like, okay, this is going to take, 6, 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. When I was young enough to do that, now I'm not sure I could keep up with that pace, but at the time I had the energy and I did it. I had the energy and I went for it. Lastly, although I didn't get help in this process all the way through, I did at the end get good mentors. So people like Paul Linden, Richard Strozzi Heckler, older men, if you're sincere and you help them out with practical stuff, maybe, and they can see you're a good guy, they'll often help you. I've been a mentor myself now for many young people. I had a young guy and his wife from the Czech Republic staying in this room, actually staying in my spare room just last weekend. So yeah, I got good mentors, and that's something I'd really recommend. You can't demand that from people, but if you're sincere and you can make yourself useful, getting good mentors, people that have gone before, people that have walked a similar path, is probably not your dad, right? Unless you're very lucky, it's probably not your dad. So yeah, that was the last thing I did right, and I've been very blessed with that, and I've been trying to play that forward. Okay, so if you know someone who's struggling finding purpose, has been making some of these mistakes, send them this video. If you're a young guy watching this, great. You don't have to make some of those mistakes. I hope that was useful. Loads of other content on this channel too.